guns make us safer. Look, as someone who supports the Second Amendment, I find this argument kind of ridiculous. I always see these bumper stickers or t-shirts or people quoting 13 million lives were saved or 800,000 lives were saved by guns, and because 40,000 died, but we saved 800,000, guns make us safer. Look, guns do not make us safer, at least not statistically. Now, I'm going to get into an argument on why they might make us safer in a minute, but I find these misleading stats or just completely ridiculous stats as just low IQ. It's kind of almost propaganda in the anti-Second Amendment direction, because you would think these people are spies. Whenever you'd see these idiots saying 13 million lives were saved by guns this year, it's like, no, they weren't. And you're making the pro-Second Amendment side look stupid. So I don't want those people speaking. But something that is interesting is the kind of idea that if every citizen has a gun, every citizen is concealed carrying, does that make the bad guy afraid? Because you don't want to rob the house because they have a gun. Every home has a gun. You don't want to rob the convenience store because they have a gun. You shouldn't assault that person because everybody has a gun. And that's something we can't look at in a study. In a country where nobody had a gun, people would be more likely to assault others because there's no force above that. If you're a big, strong guy and your cops don't have guns and citizens don't have guns, you're more likely to impose your will because nobody can stop you. So I do understand that, and it could never really be bared out in the statistics because we could never analyze, well, sir, if you weren't afraid of that guy concealed carrying, would you rob the bank? It's like we can't do a study on that. But with that kind of general premise of, the threat of other people being able to impose violence on you if you do bad, could that stop people? And probably to some degree. Now, as I've mentioned, it can't be measured, so it's kind of a concept. But why would that concept not apply to nuclear proliferation? We have all these discussions and strikes on Iranian nuclear sites because they can't own a nuke. Iran can't own a nuke, and North Korea can't own it. Well, they already do, but we don't want them to own a nuke, and we don't want the bad guys to own a nuke. And, as I was thinking about the gun kind of conceptualization of that idea of everybody having the capacity for lethal force, keeping us safer in kind of a weird roundabout way, why would that logic not apply to nukes? If every country is a nuke, we haven't seen ever a country with a nuke be attacked. We haven't seen it. The only country to ever have a nuke that was attacked, that was invaded, was Ukraine. And Ukraine had a nuke and was safe, gave up the nukes, and then was invaded. At the end of the day, I think most of these countries, North Korea, obviously from what we're told, Kim Jong-un isn't a good guy. I've never met him, so I can't really comment, but it sounds like he's doing a lot of bad stuff. And, we're worried about him having a nuke. He's had it for 20 years? It doesn't seem like he's using it offensively. It seems like it's a defensive mechanism. And why would you not want a defensive mechanism? Same thing with Iran. Are any of these countries getting nukes to use them offensively? Probably not. They're probably using them as a deterrent. So if everybody had a nuke, would that prevent countries from invading? Because nobody's going to invade a country that has a ton of nukes and then a ton of missiles that can send the nukes 500 miles away. So being able to apply force, everybody being able to apply force could make everybody safer, because it's like, if every American citizen was concealed carrying, there would be no assaults or batteries, because you wouldn't punch somebody that has a gun, they would shoot you. And kind of the same thing with a nuke. Nobody's gonna invade North Korea unless everybody agreed that we need to invade them. Then yeah, you could overpower that force, but nobody's going to do it because North Korea can cause a lot of problems.